Thank you. Thank you for joining this session. So, guys, this session will be again a very hands-on session. I'll tell the practical experiences that I had during the interview process. What are some of the pitfalls to avoid? How you should kind of structure the overall kind of your overall impact is shown during your interview, right? So how you can structure your thoughts, how can you bring out your best version of yourself during the interview. So essentially I'll be guiding you through that. In terms of session structure today, so essentially we'll be talking about few of the type of questions that are typically asked, so that are guesstimates, product design, and behavioral questions. We'll also talk about uh, general tips and tricks for cracking interviews and how to reach out to recruiters, right? And followed by that, right, we can have a short session, right, where essentially you can ask me anything, right, regarding the interview process and everything. I'll also show you in between, right, how essentially resumes are structured. So it will kind of give you an idea, but this session would mainly serve as a guiding point for you to kind of start preparing for your interviews, right? And I'll also recommend you some of the supplementary reads that are needed to kind of fulfill the remaining gap. Cool hai? Does this sound fair, guys?
Yes, yes, Nadia.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So so essentially I first want to kind of show you guys कि इंटरव्यू प्रिपरेशन के लिए इंटरव्यूज होते कैसे हैं. Typically, I just want to give you a glimpse of Gojek. Gojek कितनों को पता है? How many people are aware what is Gojek? Okay. Who's that?
I did not heard.
Okay. So Gojek is a super app. Right from ride hailing to on-demand massages to everything, right? You can do via Gojek, payments and everything. And it's very big app in Southeast Asia. So it's used heavily in Indonesia,
Indonesian
yeah,
app
Singapore,
it is, yeah.
yeah, Indonesia, Singapore, and everything. And it's one of the top-notch product companies to apply for, right? And essentially, when I was giving the interview for Gojek, they actually shared with me an interview preparation helper, right, which I found really interesting. So but I mean this will just serve as the purpose ki interviews hote kaise, right? So I just want you guys to walk through it, right? And then we'll uh, dive deeper into it. But 80% of interviews are essentially structured in the same form or manner the way Gojek has structured it, but they have compiled everything as an interview preparation helper. So first up is a brief mission about the company. If there is no interview helper that has been shared with you before the interview, I would always suggest that look out for the vision of the vision and mission of the company, because vision and mission से ही आपको idea लगेगा कि what is the direction that company wants to take, and it will essentially help you out navigate through tough times, tough questions as well, right? Like for example, Gojek is all about removing friction from daily life, right? So you can prioritize based on products, based on what product is essentially fitting more into the mission statement, right? So for example, if I ask you, right, should Gojek launch something like a detergent? Should it or should it not? What should be your answer if you look at this mission, right? No, right? It's not removing friction,
No.
right? But
No.
can Gojek enter into trucking space? I mean, moving goods from here to there.
Yes.
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 Yeah. So, I mean, it intuitively gives an idea, right? This mission statement itself, kind of, even if you are not aware of Gojek, at large, right? But still you understand that, by looking at the mission statement, right? Uh, then there's a product management function highlight, it is given, uh, and a hiring philosophy is given, which is very beautifully described by Gojek. Most other companies don't do this, right? But they were very helpful to kind of share this with me, and I'll share this with everyone else as well. So essentially, all the product management interviews essentially test out some of the competencies that are mentioned here, right? So one is customer focus, another is strategic and analytical skills, stakeholder and collaboration, delivery and execution, and value and leadership skills, right? Now, depending on the company, there might be slightly different weightage given to a slightly different competency. So, for example, some companies who are very execution oriented, for example, Amazon, will place a lot of focus on point 4 and point 1. Whereas somebody like some companies like Microsoft will place a lot of focus on 3, whereas companies like Facebook will place a lot of focus on 2, right? But essentially, these are the skills that are primarily tested out. So so typically you have 4 to 6 rounds uh, of interviews of product managers, that product management interviews that you have. And essentially the is first round is an introductory round where some of the resume grilling happens, and also a bit of product strategy questions are asked. So typically ऐसा होता है कि interview जब start होता है तो the first question is that is asked to you is uh, uh, I mean, tell me something about yourself, right? And you kind of spend 10 minutes in telling your story. It's very important to kind of carve out a very kind of compelling story, right? So, I mean, I'll just give you an example of how you should tell a story, right? If anybody could just play the role of an interviewer, right, and ask me, right, tell me something about yourself, I'll just tell that. And then I'll ask you guys to also do it. Yeah.
Hello.
Hey. Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Charvi.
Yeah. Hi, Charvi.
Basically, I have already been an HR, so I also do have some points which can also help everyone to like introduce themselves.
Yeah. Sure, Charvi. We'll take those points, right? I just want to kind of just give a demo first, right? And then, right, I mean, you can also kind of give me advice as well, right? That what can I improve on?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So can anybody just, Charvi, why don't you do a role play, right? Just can you
Okay.
ask me, right? Tell me something about yourself, right? Let's do a mock right now. You are the interviewer, and suppose I am the interviewee, right?
Okay. Fine. Okay. So hi, Navitya. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. How about you, Chavi?
I'm good too. Thanks for asking. So okay, Navitya, just tell me something about yourself.
Okay. Thanks for asking. So I'll start by essentially telling a brief about my background. Then I'll go in a reverse chronological order of things, right? How I have been working. And thirdly, I'll just kind of give you most crucial pieces that I've worked on. Does that sound fair?
Yes, yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Nevedya. I come from a small town in Madhya Pradesh called Jabalpur. It's geographical center of India. And essentially, I graduated from Triple IT, did BTech in computer science and MBA there. And right now, I'm working at Paytm Payments Bank. Essentially, there I take care of the core app strategy piece for the Paytm Payments Bank. So anything that you see on homepage, essentially for the Paytm Payments Bank, right, optimizing that page for engagement for acquisition is something that I keenly look at. Before that, I worked at IND Money, essentially where I was responsible for setting the entire lending vertical from scratch. And so I did everything there, right from picking up files to placing it to different banks, to essentially building the entire platform, right? Working with engineers, designers, compliance, and everything to get things up and running. Uh, Before that, I essentially had consulting experience, and I was an accidental product manager who entered the space by on the recommendation of one of the founders who suggested me that it might be a great fit if I move to product shoes. So yeah, that's bits and pieces about me. Uh, if you ask about key career highlights, I think one is I have been able to set up an entire vertical from scratch. So have a lot of insight on how to build products from 0 to 1. And secondly, I've worked on both B2C and B2B side. So have insight on both end of the spectrum, how products work. So yeah, that's about me.
Okay. And total, how many years of experience do you have overall?
So in terms of total years of experience, I have 6.5 years of experience. Out of that, the relevant experience in product management domain is around 5 years.
Okay,
So
that's good.
yeah. So I mean, uh, uh, yeah, Charvi, right? I mean, you can go ahead, right? I mean, you can first tell, right, what all things that I could have
Yeah.
done. Mhm.
So yeah, you started well. There was no problem in that actually. Basically, what as an HR we expect is while talking about your experience, previous experience, first we want is you have to at least tell how many years of experience do you have, and then according to it you have to segregate it. Like first you started with your current experience, that's perfect, and then you started with the previous experience, even that is perfect. Only what point you missed was it about your overall experience, that's it.
Okay.
And also after completing that, it's like you started your name, then you told about your education background, then you told about your professional background. What you missed was about your hobbies, because they basically no, sorry, the third point is about your family background, and the last point is your personal detail as of like your hobbies and what you like to basically what you like to do and etc. and your strengths or maybe your weaknesses, etc. That's it. So these are
Okay.
3-4 points which are in line, basically stepwise.
Yeah. I think some of the points, right, which you have mentioned, right, I mean, are very aptly said, right,
Yeah.
that one has to kind of take care of the total years of experience, right, because
Mm.
that is something that interviewers would want to know, right. Secondly, they would want to know a bit about my hobbies and my passion as well, right. So telling something about that, like for example, I also do teaching, right, as a hobby, right? So that is something I should have told, right? Which kind of
Also, the important thing is about your family, because if a person is hiring you, also they would like to know from where you belong to, basically your family background, who all are there and what they work as, etc.
yeah. So family background, I think. I mean, that is also something that I could have also told, right? Like for example, so I come from a business family, right? So telling that. I mean, I don't know how it works, right? Because it works as a dual-edged sword. With HRs, it doesn't work well. With CEOs, it works superbly well, right? CEOs want to hire people from business background.
Business background.
Yeah. And HRs generally avoid people from business background. So, I mean, I don't know how that interplay happens, right? So, I mean,
But
I haven't.
here, maybe in product, like in this interview as a product, for this role particularly, maybe the HR would be happy to like understand that you are from a business background. Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So Bibla also raised hand, right? She wants to say something. Yeah, Bibla.
Then if we are talking to the HR, we shouldn't mention that we are from a business back. I mean, we come from a family with a business background, or should we do that?
See, I mean, that's a question, right? In fact, that comes to my mind as well, right? So I have never told about my family background unless and until it has been explicitly asked for, right? Because I come from a business family, and sometimes people ask me the question, right, that if you have already have a business there, right, then why you are spending your time in job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now this question, right, might seem very obvious in Indian context, but I mean, it sounds quite intrusive to me, right? I mean, why somebody is assessed based on their background, right?
Right.
So
Here I can tell you, as a manager, this is Satish here. Yeah.
mhm,
Okay. So not as a HR point of view, but as a manager point of view,
mhm.
it is required family.
Yeah,
Why?
so
Why?
yep.
Because there are a lot of things involved. Okay. If someone is married, okay, if someone is a lady, right? So she is married, they will think of all other things. Okay. How she will be managing the things and everything, how the family is doing and everything. Especially nowadays, due to Corona, they always ask about the families.
Yeah. So, so married or unmarried is obviously that one has to tell, right? I mean, I agree to that. And so, in fact, some companies, like for example, Microsoft and everything, right? They have a proper system in place, right? Where they ask these questions explicitly, so they don't
Yes.
ask that in interview.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Behavioral questions, actually, they ask all these things. Because
Yeah.
recently, for all the interviews which I have went, I got all these questions,
Yeah. So,
especially for the family.
yeah, typically those questions are also asked, right? But right now, right, the focus element there is carving out your story, right?
Yes,
Especially the
yes.
one or
Yeah.
two lines about your product management interest is what is something that the interviewer would want to know. And by the way, first round doesn't happen with HR.
Yes.
First round typically happens with
SME.
head of it happens with the hiring manager or head of product.
Head of product.
Yeah, so typically the first round happens with the biggest guy in the company, right? So in product management interviews it happens the other way. So अगर CEO ले रहा है तो शायद first round CEO ही ले सकता है, right? Like for example at Paytm, right, a lot of first round have been taken by Vijay himself, right? So so what those first one or two lines are there are very important. Why you are interested in product management? Because you are entering into जैसे मैं तो already product में हूँ, right? So मेरे लिए justify करना थोड़ा easy हो जाता है, right? But you guys are not from product background up till now, right? So now you have to kind of tell a story which is compelling enough that you want to product move to product management shoes, right? That why do you want to be a product manager, right? I mean, that is something that you need to tell, right? In that story, I mean, it should highlight a strong interest towards it. So uh, 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 that's there. Any other questions we have?
No, not really.
Okay. So I'll just expedite it, right? Some parts of it, right? Because I mean, we have a long list to cover here, right? So uh, I think so the next question, they typically the questions that are asked, right, which are technical questions are so one of the questions that interviewer would want to know from you is how do you decide and prioritize on, right? So how do you make decisions? How do you prioritize, right? How do you think about strategy and how do you think about roadmap, right? So and typically there, right, a lot of problem solving questions are also asked, right? So there are a few sample questions, right, which are there for your help, right? Like for example, what is a product you currently use every day, why and how would you improve it? So remember the question, this is a general question, right, which is asked in product management, right, that how do you design an alarm clock for blind people, right? We have that discussion multiple times, right? If you would have interacted with me earlier as well, right? Those kind of questions are something which you need to prepare on, right? So there are few things that I would tell you to focus on is always tell for a product you use every day which is related to the context. So for example, agar if you are giving interview for a fintech company, right, tell an example of a fintech app, right? If you are giving interview for say a travel industry, right, give example like Airbnb or something like that, right, which is more relevant to the user. Don't not user, the end interviewer, right? So essentially always make sure that you ask the you tell the relevant item only. Like for example, if you ask me what's my favorite app, so depending on the company and the role, right, I will tell you a different favorite app. So uh, 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 Satish, right, I want to ask you, right, so suppose I am hiring for say Paytm, right? So what's your favorite app, right? uh, 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 what's the app you use daily and how would you improve it? So what would be typical example that you would choose?
For Paytm.
Yeah,
So
you are
maybe
giving it.
phone pay I use, I can tell you. Phone
Yeah,
pay
so phone
as an
pay.
example.
Yeah, so phone pay is an excellent example that you can take. You can think about other apps as well which you which
Which
are
are
related.
relevant to that particular
Yeah,
scenario.
yeah, like for example different banking apps, right, or apps which have lot of data in them, right, like for example Splitwise and everything, right?
Is
So
mentioning competitors a good?
Uh, see, I mean, mentioning direct competitor, I would not suggest give an example of a direct competitor always. I try to avoid that. But if that is truly that you like about a company, right? I mean, you should not feel afraid of telling it. So, I mean, my suggestion is don't always take a direct competitor, but take something which is related to it.
uh, I had a question. For
Mhm.
example, if someone is appearing an interview for Paytm, and the
Mhm.
interviewer asks, "What is your favorite app?" And if we directly say, "Yes, my favorite app is Paytm," so it won't look very
No, no,
nice.
no, no, no. Never tell the direct app, right? Never tell the direct app, never tell about the direct competing app as well, right? But take an
Okay,
example which might be relevant to the individual,
okay,
right? Like for example, don't say TikTok, right?
okay.
So, I mean, you can tell TikTok to someone who is interviewing you for Facebook, maybe, right?
For
But
example,
not.
we are like interviewing for Paytm, then we can say MobiQuick or something like that, because MobiQuick is not a very direct competitor of Paytm, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, but always tell. See, I mean, all this I am telling is if you hardcore use that app, because the next question will be what are the things you like in the app, what are the things you don't like in the app,
Okay.
right? And
Mhm.
then the follow-up question will be what will be the things you will do to improve the app even more, right?
Okay.
So my suggestion is take 4 5 apps in different domain and prepare, right, I mean use them end to end and make a concrete viewpoint, right, that make something, make notes about it, right, कि इस app में क्या अच्छा है क्या बुरा है, right? I mean
Mhm.
make those notes, right? What is good in the app, what is bad in the app, right? Keep that in mind.
Right, right.
So that will kind of add immense value, right? Like for example, I was asked when I was getting interviewed by IND Money, right, that what is your favorite app? So I told them Cred, right? So Cred is one of the apps I really like just because it allows me to make the payments very fast, very quick. For my credit cards, it also gives me reward points, right? What I really find annoying about the app is, I mean, I still don't find any utility for the points that are there, right?
Mhm.
uh, so those are some of the examples I gave them, right? So, but tell a app which is relevant, right? I mean, which should be somewhat related, right?
Right, right.
So, uh, that's that's one of the things that you would be asked, right? Then typically the second round that would happen is around product design, right? We'll dive deep into product design, right? Where essentially here the design principles of product management are used, right? That how would you go about designing a product, right? How would you go about designing an alarm clock? How would you go about designing say a new kind of a lock, right? Or how would you go about designing a new kind of a app uh, for new age people who want to open savings account, right? So these are typically questions that are asked, and the key thing to keep in mind there is the why element for it. So I mean, why we do need to build an app? Who is the end user, right? If you are clear about that, that kind of makes a lot of sense. We'll cover this in detail as we move forward in the session. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a brief that this is also something that is asked for. The next set of questions are asked are around data and analytical skills.
uh, Here, like if we are interviewing for Paytm, let's say, so will these design questions be more relevant to like fintech products, right? Or
No,
they,
no, no. I can ask you anything, right? So I have asked, how would you go about designing a stadium for 60,000 people?
okay,
So, I mean, that can be anything, right? Or how would you go about designing Delhi Metro, something like Delhi Metro for Bangalore City?
okay, it's not necessary that it will be around that industry itself. Okay,
Any questions might be asked, right? How would you solve problem for traffic in India? Give
okay.
me three good suggestions. How would you go about solving the traffic problem, right? So all these essentially gives you insight about the ability of the candidate to deal with ambiguity and apply structure in case when things are not very clear, right? So I mean, we'll cover in detail how these questions are taken up, right? The next set of questions I just want to cover is data and analytical skill questions. So usually you might be asked to kind of interpret some of the results, or you might also be asked essentially to do some kind of guesstimates or something, which is something that will be tested in another round with you, right? There are a few other questions that are mentioned here, right? But I mean, so I will also dive deep into what are the kind of questions that are asked there, and then there are rounds between engineering teams and other stakeholders in communication, right? Where essentially you are asked very behavioral questions. For example, how would you go about explaining to the team of the recent failure that happened in the product, right? So those kind of what are your biggest success and failures in product management career you have faced, or what are some of the failures you faced in your previous role, and what are some of the great learnings you had? Tell me two learnings that you had, right? How would you explain something to a designer? So those kind of questions are typically asked, right? Which are behavioral set of questions that are asked in the next 2 or 3 rounds of interviews. So typically there are two technical rounds and three behavioral rounds, 3 or 2 behavioral rounds. So, but 1 or 2 technical rounds will happen for sure, where product design would be taken, and then essentially product design would be important, and second would be data and analytical skills, where you might be asked guesstimates. So yeah, that's a brief about it, right? I'll also share this with you guys, right? So this will kind of give you guys an this will kind of give you a lot of insight, right? That how is there, and you can also watch some of the links here, right, which are really great, right, which will give you uh, give you an idea about product management and some and like for example this particular link I really like, which is Go Figure. uh, this talk you guys all of you should watch. This I would highly recommend. Yeah, Prasoon, I'll answer those questions in detail, right? I'll cover all these items in detail as well. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up before we kind of uh, start with the uh, exercise. I'm just sharing this with you guys. Uh, yeah, let me. Just give me a moment, guys. Yeah. So, I mean, I just wanted to kind of give you guys, I mean, just upfront key what all things are expected, right? We'll start with guesstimates, right? So, how many of you are aware of guesstimates, by the way? How many of you have solved guesstimates?
I am aware, have solved couple, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Even I am aware, but I've not solved many, but yes, an idea about how to go about it and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, same here as well, like Sakshi.
Okay, so guesstimates are typically brownie point questions, right? They are some of the easiest questions if you are able to bring in structured thought process. They are some of the easiest ones to answer, right? And they kind of they kind of serve as a great filtering criteria. So just make sure that when I'm walking you guys through, you can ask questions, right? So that you understand it well, and I'll also give you guys to practice few of the questions for guesstimates. So if I may ask if I may ask anyone, maybe Rotsi, right, how many golf balls are in the air at the moment, right? How would you go about it?
First, I would like to know, like, am I talking about a particular geographical location, or is it like what's the coverage area? So, like, is
Yeah.
it for the entire India, or maybe
Yeah.
some particular city?
So just we'll just take a pause here, right? And let's look at what Rotsi essentially asked, right? She is asking clarifying questions, right, which is step one, right? So Rotsi, you have attempted these questions before, right?
Yes, I have actually gone through certain guesstimate questions, so I know some of the things, like how to
Okay.
approach. Yeah.
Anyone who is completely new to it, I want him to volunteer, him or her to volunteer.
I am completely new in this, like for guesstimation part. Yes.
Okay. So, Charvi, right, let me now ask you, right, this same question, right? How many golf balls are in the air at the moment? How will you go about it? And this is for entire world.
So it's difficult for me because I don't even know anything about it.
But how would you go about? See, here here the main points that are being assessed are not your answers, but they are assessing your structural thought process, right? They are you should be able to ask the relevant questions that are there. So what will be the relevant questions that you would ask me if I ask you how many golf balls are in the air at the moment?
Yeah, so first thing, like as now Rochi said, basically I will be asking for which area or maybe a particular area of
Entire world we are talking about.
yeah. So as you said, entire world. Now from that we need to understand how many people actually play golf.
Okay,
Yeah.
people play golf. Okay, you want to know it, right? And
Um, can I suggest like
yeah, Sakshi.
yeah, so we can also start by thinking like obviously how many people play golf and how many golf grounds are there, like uh, according to the locations, and or like at least an estimate rough idea we can take, because when we know the number of golf grounds it will be more easy, and how many people play at a time in those grounds, so that way.
Okay, but those are the estimates that you will take, right? But what are the clarifying questions you would ask?
Okay.
See, the trick to this is you just need to ask the clarifying questions till the point, right, that you are absolutely clear what is the basic equation that has to be framed. I'll just explain to you guys how the thought process work, and then we'll come back to this question again, right? So first step is asking clarifying questions. Second step is creating a formula. A third step is finding knowns and unknowns. Fourth is rounding off and calculating, and fifth is doing a sanity check, right? So let's take this example again, right? How many golf balls are in the air at the moment, right? So let's so the way you would go about it is just for first 1 or 2 minutes give a thought, right, that what exactly the question means, right? So let me write it down, right? Right. So now the questions, one question you rightly asked, right, that are we talking about the entire globe?
And also, like, I know we are talking about the whole globe and he's asking about at the moment, but we can also ask, like, should we consider the same time zone for the whole world at this moment, or like?
No, I mean, see, how would you go about it? Think realistically, right? Half of the world is sleeping, right?
Yeah, that's why, because yeah, half of the world will be having night at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, those are the things you have to factor in, right? So, but what's the basic equation, right? How many golf balls are in the air at the moment? What are the things I should know if I want to know this?
So, in
How
the air means what? Like, in the
flying
air
in the air?
means flying in the air.
Hmm.
So, openly or in like through helicopter, aeroplane, or like that, or just openly the balls are. If somebody,
No. Somebody
Like
has played it and it's in the air.
okay, the only the shot in the air means somebody is striking, and the shot ball is right now in the air.
Ha. Yeah. Short balls only. Okay, that's a great question you have asked, right? Because somebody might be carrying a ball in the aircraft, right?
Yeah, actually, I didn't even know. Like in the air means I was imagining airplane only, but since someone right now mentioned ki it's the strike, so I thought of asking.
Yeah.
I was considering it initially. Air means airplane only, so that was my bad, I guess.
Okay, no worries, no worries. I mean, see, the entire point of asking these questions is to just get clarity, right?
Yeah.
What should be known that if these are short balls only, right? I mean, what is the basic equation that we will need? How many people are playing golf right now, right? Don't you think we should know this, right? How many people are playing golf right now, right? We should
Yes.
know this. I mean, if we are somehow hypothetically aware of it, right, we will be able to come to this answer, right?
Yep.
What all?
We can figure out how many golf grounds available right now.
How many golf
Golf,
balls?
golf grounds.
Okay. How many golf grounds are available right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Also,
But
we out of all those which are open right now, like for example, right now it's a night in India, so all the golf grounds and courses will be closed right now. But in the other half of the world, they might be open, but then also they are in different time zones. So we can narrow it down to
Mhm.
what are the like prime working hours in which all time zones the prime working hours are going on right now, so that they may be
Which is how many golf grounds are available right now?
okay.
I
Oh,
mean, available से वैसे ही हो जाएगा, right? I mean,
also
but I got your point.
also the question is at the moment, right? So we would only be focusing on how many balls are actually there.
So is it like for per second or per, I mean, are we considering per second, like how many balls are in the air per second or not?
Yep. Per
So
second.
if we need that, then maybe we should know the duration of a golf match.
Okay, great.
Or else I guess the time, minimum or maximum time by which a player hits, like from the time when he actually fires the shot and the distance through which the shot lands, the distance, would that matter?
Uh, it
And
might.
it takes around 1 or 2 minutes to estimate and we need to short.
Okay, like what I mean exactly is how much time, like what is the maximum duration of a golf ball can stay in the air, like destination से उधर तक पहुंचने के लिए.
Okay.
But isn't that the question, like the question that is being asked, like we need to know na, that what's the duration, like how long is the ball, or okay, no, got it, sorry.
Yeah. So duration of a golf match is okay. Average duration, the ball is in air during a match, right?
Yeah, so that can be like retrieved from the previous question only, like duration of a golf match. We can we can think of some percentage of that duration.
Yeah. Percentage of that is when the ball is in the air, right?
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, if we have a very basic equation like this, right? The average amount of time ball is in the air during a match times number of matches. What will this give me?
Total amount of time
Time. It would
duration of
give the duration.
Duration, the ball is in air, right?
Hmm.
The balls are in air, right? And if I divide this by 86,400, what will this give me?
Number of people, let's say, are playing golf right now will be 86,400 if you're assuming that. So it will give us the
Wait, what is 86,400?
the
It's
number
for
of people are
seconds,
playing
for
right now.
that time. It's for the time, for seconds.
Total number of
Seconds,
seconds.
I get it.
86,400 is the number of seconds that are there in a day. So 86,400. Now this equation will essentially give me, right? How many balls are
At the moment, it won't.
at the moment, right? I mean, see, at the moment means at this very second, right? A very good estimate of that would be if I find out what's happening throughout the day, how many balls are in the air throughout the day, and I just divide by 86,400. That will give me for the 1 second how many balls are there in 1 second, right?
Yeah.
So see, the interviewer is just interested in knowing this equation from you, right? And rest of all, right, is just you fitting in numbers, right? So he is just interested in knowing this particular thing from you, right? Now I'll take up another example, which is a more simpler one, right? uh how many golf balls can you fit in a aircraft Airbus A380? How would you find this?
I think firstly,
Golf,
The
size of
capacity of it, maybe.
Square footage of aircraft divided by square footage of ball.
Yeah, volume. Excellent. Who answered this?
This is Pratyasha.
Yeah, so volume of you have answered it bang on. Volume, usable volume of Airbus A380 divided by volume of a golf ball, right? This equation will give you an idea, right? I mean, some vague idea about how many golf balls you can fit an Airbus A380, right? What about this? How many pillars are there in Delhi NCR for Delhi Metro? What's gonna be
So maybe the
clarifying questions can be like number of stations.
so number of pillars required per kilometer for Delhi Metro multiplied by percentage of Delhi Metro in uh, uh, running on elevated corridor. इससे आइडिया लग जाएगा, राइट? Multiplied by total length of Delhi Metro. Yep. Will this give the answer or not? I mean, I just want to know from you guys.
And even there is one more answer, like the distance between two pillars and the overall distance of the uh, one place to another place, the entire Delhi metro. Can you
Yeah,
answer?
so total length of Delhi Metro I have taken, and number
Yeah.
of pillars required per square kilometer for Delhi Metro I have taken, and I have also taken percentage of Delhi Metro running on elevated corridor, because some Delhi Metro runs on ground, some Delhi Metro runs underground, and some only some of the Delhi Metro runs on the elevated corridor, right?
Yeah.
So see, the interviewer is just interested in knowing this equation from you, right? And then you can go about doing estimations, right? But to come to these, right, you need to ask clarifying questions, right? Like for example, what will be the clarifying question for how many golf balls can you fit in an Airbus A380?
Are there any
Is it
passengers
empty?
involved, or it's just fully occupied for the balls to fit it?
Yep. Are we talking about cargo plane, or are we talking about normal commercial, normal passenger plane? Right? Are we talking about the plane that is completely empty, or are we talking about the plane, right, which is having seats and everything? Because seats and everything will also occupy the space, right? What will be the clarifying question we will ask here? How many pillars are there in Delhi NCR for Delhi Metro? What will be the clarifying questions we will ask?
Total length of Delhi Metro.
Okay. What else you would ask?
Maybe we can.
Distance between two pillars.
Average
Uh,
distance.
you can take a guess for it, right?
The number of metro lines that are there.
How will this be important?
So if like per pillar per line, what should I say?
Yeah, you are telling it right.
Yeah, I mean to say that if there are suppose three parallel lines, then obviously we will need three separate pillars for a particular point.
Exactly. Right. You will ask this as well, right? That how many parallel lines are there? Any parallel lines or not?
Yeah.
Because parallel lines होंगी तो तब तो issue हो जाएगा, right? I mean, there will be twice the number of pillars that are required, right? Or no?
Length of elevated structures, as you said, I guess.
Yeah. Percentage of it is elevated, right? Percentage of Delhi Metro that is elevated. So these are some of the clarifying questions that you would essentially ask, right? But the key to solve these type of questions is essentially once you practice a bit, right? I mean, you will essentially be able to kind of fit in these, right? But the approach to solve these are very simple, right? You kind of look at the what's the kind of uh, so first thing that you would do is you will ask the clarifying questions. Second step you will do is you will frame a basic equation, and then from there on you will figure out the knowns and unknowns. So I'll share a book with you guys as well, right? Let me just share it as well, uh, which will kind of give you guys an idea about how to solve these kind of questions and other questions as well, right? Uh, Guys, by the way, please keep on downloading, right?
Yes.
See, now here there is one more example which I kind of took in as an example, right? Like number of dentists that are there in Mumbai. So this is essentially number of appointments made for made for dentists per year divided by number of appointments a dentist can serve in a year. Now, for number of appointments made for a dentist per year, we'll go about number of people who have dental issues multiplied by average visits one person makes to a dentist. Now, to come to this number of people who have dental issues, we'll take the population of Mumbai multiplied by percentage of people with dental issues, right? So essentially, this kind of structuring is what is required, right? When you are answering the questions, right? And this book essentially will give you idea about few of the guesstimates, right? And you will be able to estimate it. You will be able to kind of come up with answers like these, right? Like for example, I was able to estimate this particular number as 6,000. All these are made up numbers. Nobody is actually going to check how many balls you can fit in an aircraft. Nobody knows, right? They just want to know the approach that is there. Any questions we have here?
So here the question, like this question, particular question has been solved from the demand side. So like, and I have read in that Decode and Conquer book that we can solve, approach questions from also from supply side. So how do I decide like when to solve when to solve using which approach?
See, I mean, both. I mean, what is most what I always recommend is essentially when you have the basic equation ready, right?
Hmm.
See, basic equation anyways you'll have to frame, right? Whether you are solving it from demand side or you are
Yeah,
solving, right?
yeah.
So whatever approach is that seems to you more convenient, right? You should take up that. Right now there's
Okay.
no exact science behind it that here I should take in. I mean, it's more like trigonometry, right? Where I mean, you have to multiply something to come to remember when we would do maths questions on trigonometry, right? We
Yeah,
will
which
multiply.
identity to use, and yes, which
Yeah,
trigonometric identity to use.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
independent,
what to
exactly.
multiply on LHS and RHS, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Now the question, right, which Preetham is asking, right, whether we should go about top down or bottom up, I would suggest always try to go when you are solving these questions, right? I mean, if it's not suggested, I mean, you should go via top down approach. I mean, it's much easier to go via top down approach. If you take in the big numbers, like, and then you reduce it from there, it becomes much easier rather than taking up a bottom up approach. Bottom up analysis is actually more difficult to do. So unless it is not asked for, right, you should go top down. Next, I mean, so any other questions you have? Rotsi, I think you were asking something.
No, I that one is clarified. Like I asked about this demand and supply side. So yeah, I got this answer. Like, okay.
So next, guys, I want to talk about few questions which are asked, right? I mean, so guesstimates are optional, right? They might be asked somewhere in interviews or not, but product design for sure will be asked, right? These are questions related to how do you proceed about designing or critiquing a particular product, right? Like how do you design a smartwatch or how do you design an alarm clock for blind, right? And what they assess is they test out the structural thought process of the candidate, and it assesses the ability to empathize. So I'll quickly jump to a question, right, where essentially uh, 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 we'll uh, we'll try to go about designing a coffee cup, right? So how would we go about designing a coffee cup?
In
Uh,
the demographics, like age of the user for whom we are designing it.
okay. Let me ask someone, right? How about Pooja, right? How would you go about designing a coffee cup? Hello. Hey,
Yeah,
Pooja.
yeah. Actually, I was on mute.
Yeah. So how would you go about designing a coffee cup?
Uh, First, I would ask if they are which type of coffee cup. Like they have like short glasses for uh, dark coffee or for cold coffee. We have different kinds of coffee.
Okay.
I would like to ask like which coffee, like type of coffee am I going to design a cup for?
Okay. What about Prasoon, right? What question you would ask? What is the single most important question that we should ask when we are kind of are going about designing a coffee cup?
So who is going to use the coffee cup? Is it a professional person, or I mean, we need to know, sometimes we need to know the background of a person. So I mean, if some people like funkier type of cups and some people like just plain coffee cup. So depends on the user.
Yep.
So who is going to use it? Yeah, I mean, that's already the first question for whom we are designing it.
So
Like,
why
what
do
is
you,
the purpose of a coffee
Functionality.
cup?
Is this a
Yeah.
multi-purpose coffee cup or only for coffee?
Also, like, if it is used multiple times, like, what's the usage?
okay.
So another point would be what is the amount of coffee it should hold? Matlab, does it have to be
Capacity of the
one?
cup.
So, uh,
Okay. Anything else?
Any variants of the cup? Like, are we designing one singular?
and material क्या होना चाहिए वो कप का? I mean, material
Even
मतलब.
shape of the cup.
See, all these
Actually,
questions. Yeah, you were telling.
yeah, actually, I was telling that this material of the cup and variants, this will depend on the demographics, like which user is using. If
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
designing a coffee cup for a baby or maybe a kid or a toddler, then that would be a very different one. It might have bigger handles, and yeah, like that's the thing.
Yeah. So see, everything else is consequential, right? For whom we are designing it, right? Which is the first item, right? Which was highlighted by you guys, right? This is the most important piece, right? So for example, if are we designing it for toddler, as Rodsi just said, or are we designing it for astronauts, right?
Can
Or,
I ask something? Like, why would someone design a coffee mug for a toddler? Toddlers are not supposed to drink coffee.
see, I mean, that's actually a clarifying question that you should ask, right? I mean, so coffee cup, do people only drink coffee in coffee cup?
No, but like toddlers will have that milk uh, cups, right?
I can have liquor in a coffee cup, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I mean, see, uh, uh, coffee cup is just a symbolic way of telling any cup, right? Which is used for consuming anything, right? I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
so this is actually the second time in a lot of batches somebody has asked me, why do we design a coffee cup for a toddler, right? A toddler will not uh, design a coffee, will not drink a coffee. And by the way, Prasoon is telling me that it's Saturday and you are missing liquor. So Prasoon, I am a teetotaler.
Me too.
uh,
Actually, for survey, we initially learned to like group design a particular thing for a target audience. So I think like if you're saying coffee cup, you're like mentioning coffee. So I would directly think like someone in college or above that who's maybe a professional or something who's an appropriate age to drink coffee. That's why I asked. Like
yeah, so Pooja, right? These are the clarifying questions that you will have to ask.
yeah,
See
yeah,
the
got
interview, like for example, see, don't take any assumptions that are there, right? for example, whenever you are giving an interview, right, you should never take in assumptions, right? I was assuming that, right? I mean, you should ask upfront, right, those questions, right? See, entire exercise we have been doing is about asking the right questions, right? And interviewer is 60% of your marks are about asking the right question, right?
Okay. Yeah, got it.
So that is something that you should keep in mind, right? Always, whenever you are having a product management interview, that hey, the first thing that he wants to know is, am I able to ask the right questions or not, right?
Yeah.
So that is the thing, right? I mean, you shouldn't take an assumption, but yeah, valid point, right? I mean, a kid won't drink coffee, but he might drink something else, right? In it. So how about we go about designing a coffee cup for an astronaut? So what all things we should keep in mind when we are designing a cup for an astronaut?
Should be
Should
like
be leak
spill
proof.
proof.
Okay, should not litter proof. What else should be there?
A very solid cup. Sorry, I mean a cap, and it has to be filled in such a way that even in the absence of gravity, it can just like directly. I mean, how do I put it? It can be sucked from the machine itself. Like we don't have to pour it because that is not possible.
No, but you can suck in gravity and zero gravity as well, right? Because I mean, when you are drinking, when you are sipping through a straw, right, you are applying a force, and then the liquid will roll in.
Yeah, I mean, using that same principle needs to be used to fill the cup as well. That was my point actually.
Okay. You are saying that filling the cup, right? Yeah,
Yeah, because we can't pour it in a cup. That is not possible. So it has to be, I mean, filled using some pressure device. So it has to be
agreed,
designed in that way.
agreed, agreed.
Maybe
So
self-stirring,
one
like
thing is, yeah. So one thing is like the temperature conditions will be different. So we need to decide the material accordingly.
Yeah. What about, I mean, so what
It
kind of
should
material
also
should
be.
you?
I think it should
Shouldn't be
be.
heavy and solid because it might hit some astronaut.
Okay. How about having it as NASA compliant material? यहाँ पे तो NASA compliant material is required, right? Any material, if no matter how strong it is, right? I mean, if it's not NASA compliant, it will not be used, right? I mean, for space, you cannot take anything in space, right? You have to have that compliant material, right?
Yes.
Yes, with the right weightage also.
Yeah. So,
Also, it should be washable or like reusable. So, one person cannot take many cups to the space. There is a limit, right?
yeah, rugged and reusable, right?
Yeah.
Actually, Neved, it needs a scientific view that how should a cup be designed from space perspective, because for that we need to look at the existing containers which are used by astronauts. Maybe us when how they are drinking the normal other fluids, like how they are drinking the water, same way they will drink the coffee as well. So we need to look at the existing containers they are using already in space, because we are new to it and we don't know how it goes in space.
Okay. So
we can
looking,
also go for like self-stirring things, like which will all like make coffee instantly and you can drink out of it.
yeah. See, I mean, what I am actually trying to do is essentially I am compiling the thoughts that are coming once you have clarity on for whom we are designing it for, right? Like abhi jab question narrow down hua to bahut easily all these things come into your mind, right? So,
Yep.
one of the things that you essentially have to keep in mind, right, whenever you are kind of doing these design question is essentially asking, right, for whom we are designing it for and why we are designing it for, why we are designing it, right? If those questions are answered right, automatically you will come to some of the solutions that are there, right? And there's also a fundamental method that is used, right, which is mentioned in the book as well. I'll quote that here, right, but I would want you guys to kind of study it once, and maybe we can have a session, right, where essentially we can apply it as well. It's called circles, right? So the trick to solve these kind of questions, right, design problems, is applying circles method, which is nothing but what we have done, but this is articulated in a more scientific manner, right? So circles essentially stands for first is comprehending the problem, second is identifying the customer, third is cut through prioritization, fourth is listing the solutions, fifth method is evaluating trade-offs, and sixth is summarizing. So this is a standard method, right, which you should always apply for solving, right? So but you don't need to tell the interviewer, right, that I will be using a circles method to kind of apply here, right? I mean, instead you should do it very fluently, right? So first, so for example, if you ask me, right, how would you go about designing a coffee cup, right? The answer that I would first give in is, uh, hey, I mean, that's an interesting question. So first I'll do is I'll ask you some of the clarifying questions that are there. I would want to know who the customer is and why this product is needed, right? If you could answer that. So the other person says, right, so we are looking to design a coffee cup, say, for an astronaut. Okay. So then I'll essentially look into the problems. Okay. The key problems that are faced by the astronaut are this, right? Now, if I just think about some of the solutions, right, which can solve the problems for the user, which I have mentioned, right? These are this, right? Spill proof, right? Steering should be there, right? Auto steering of material should be there, right? It should be NASA compliant material and everything. Then out of these, I think the most important task is essentially having the NASA compliant materials in place, right? And the reason for that is this, and then you summarize the solution. So this is how you should typically go about answering the questions which are related to product design, right? How do you go about designing things, right? And again, right, decode and conquer serves a very good purpose. Rodsy, I think, has read Decode and Conquer, right?
Yeah, I have gone through certain chapters of that book. So yeah.
Oh, okay. And how was your experience in kind of? So I have also kind of read the book inside out. I would recommend all of you to also buy that book if you are serious about product management. It's not very expensive. Uh, just give me a moment. Let me take out my hard copy, right? Okay. It has been misplaced, right? But I always keep it very close to me. I mean, I have not been keeping it close to me for now, right? But that is one of the books I would highly recommend. It's one of the books that you guys should also uh, kind of look to buy. Decode and Conquer. I've shared it, but I would recommend that you buy it as well. this 485. It's cost 485, and this book will be serving the purpose lifelong. I mean, because I mean, one has to practice it very extensively as well. Yeah, Abhinav, I think you should buy the sprint book as well. I mean, see, some of the books, right? I mean, if you would ask me, right, I would recommend you guys to kind of buy some of the books and should always keep them with you. If you want, I'll share the list as well. Yep. So, any questions we have here, right, for design questions? I mean, so how about Bimla, right? Are you aware, are you now aware of how the basic approach is there?
Yes, Navitya.
Okay. Any questions we have on these particular questions?
Yeah, Navedya, I had a question.
Okay.
So, for guesstimate type of questions, the interviewer basically tries to understand how our approach is and not the exact answer, right?
Yep.
And for design based question, like once I was asked in an interview, how without prototyping, without drawing any designs or without drawing at all, you are to explain the design to the designer. So how would you explain? So at this point of time, I mentioned like what is my vision I will present in front of the designer. And since the designer has a better view of how it should look, I would just go on with the designer's mindset also. I had answered this, but it seems the interviewer wasn't satisfied with the answer. So, could you just explain like what could have been the better answer to this?
Okay. So I just want to ask you again, right? So is the question is I don't have anything pen and paper or anything with me, right? And I have to tell the designer, right?
Yes, yes. No pen and paper, no prototyping, no drawing tools, nothing.
Okay. So I don't have anything to so I just need to tell the concept to the designer. Is that true?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. And is it a product that is already existing or is it a product that is completely new that we are building?
So it's basically a feature to an already existing product.
Okay. So it's a feature to an already existing
Yeah,
product, right?
yeah, new
So
feature.
I am presume, and can you tell me a bit about designer? Is he an experienced designer or is he someone who is completely new to the flow?
So the designer is an experienced person.
Okay. Okay. So, the way I would now attempt the question is essentially kind of structuring it in three parts, right? So first is I will try to comprehend the designer, right? Which you rightly told, right? That he's an experienced designer. So he's already well versed with the flows, right? Now, regarding the concept, right? I just need to draw in basic contours that are there, right, about the product, and I don't need to explain. I just need to explain to him that what is the end output that is needed from the offering, and I don't need to explain the flow. So, are we aware about the end output that is needed by the feature?
Yes, yes, we are.
Okay. So in case we are aware of the end output, right, that is required, right? What I would essentially do is essentially would tell him the problem statement of the user, right? And I would ask him first that what are the probable solutions for solving that problem, right? Just to gauge that if he can come up with a better solution, right? And then I would propose my solution, and then I will ask him back, right? That what is the suggested flow for that. So I mean, you are understanding, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I have not even I mean, it's a very vague question that is asked, right?
Yeah.
And the interviewer itself is not expecting a very hello.
Yeah, Nivedita.
Yeah. Preetham, there's issue with my microphone.
I can hear you.
Sherin's.
Okay.
Earlier it was.
Okay. So essentially, right, what I am trying to do is I am also kind of just see what I did was I asked you a very big question, right? I asked you whether the designer is experienced or not, right? So you told that he is already experienced, right? So मेरी आधी प्रॉब्लम तो वहीं सॉल्व हो गई, राइट? अगर वो एक्सपीरियंस्ड है तो आई डोंट नीड डिजाइन टू टेल हिम. See, and you told that it's for an existing feature and the designer is already aware of the flow, right? Hello.
Yeah, you all are audible.
Okay. So so Sharon, what I think the interviewer was expecting from you was asking the right set of clarifying questions there, right? Asking him, right, these two questions, that whether the designer is experienced or not, and whether it's for an existing product or not, right? And since you answered both, right, it's for an existing product and he is an experienced designer, that means he already understands the flow. What I just need to do is I just need to shepherd him through, right? I just need to kind of uh, get his viewpoint and then kind of work on the flow. That's it, right? You are getting you are getting my point. Hello.
I think Sherin is having some issues with her microphone. She is muting and unmuting herself.
Am I audible now?
Yeah. You are audible.
Yeah. So
Audible.
I was telling that maybe asking the right set of clarifying questions was certainly missed by me. What I didn't ask was the experience. Regarding the feature, I had asked, but yeah, the designer's experience wasn't asked. And also, too many clarifying questions I didn't cover. I basically jumped on the solution. So, right now, as you said, first follow a structured approach and do not ponder onto the conclusion. That is something which I had done.
Yeah. See, uh, uh, that's one of the things, right? That in interviews that they want to kind of assess, right? That whether we are kind of contesting. See, what actually happens in practical world is a lot of times, right? We are so constrained on time that we have to kind of jump to the solution, right? So what they are actually checking out, that are you thinking subconsciously about the mishaps that can happen, right? Are you kind of subconsciously taking a step towards asking the right question, right? Because subconsciously, if that is built in, right, that is kind of that can then come up with can be very useful when you are designing very critical features, right? So you are able to, so they are just gauging that particular piece in you. So never mind, but can you share me for which company it was?
Yeah, it was for Turtle Mint.
Okay. So Turtle Mint is basically that company, right, which is into fintech marketplace, right? Okay. So uh, any other questions we have here? Okay, so I'll just move on to the last set of questions which are essentially asked, right? Are essentially behavioral questions, right? So behavioral questions are essentially uh, situational questions that are basically designed just to assess your viewpoint, right? So these are questions, right, where, for example, right, have you ever faced failure in life and how did you overcome it, right? Or for example, your developer has been working for 3 weeks on a piece of code, but your CEO has now scrapped the product. How would you handle this situation? So these kind of questions are asked, right? So I would want somebody to kind of how about Saikiran? So Saikiran, this particular problem statement you have, right? So how would you go about answering these?
Actually, I didn't heard the question. Can you repeat?
So the question is, your developer has been working for 3 weeks on a piece of code, but your CEO has now scrapped the product. How will you handle the situation?
So I need to understand what is exactly looking for this feature. Like what we did a mistake for the from the last past 3 weeks, and what he has exactly looking for the output.
नहीं, but last 3 weeks से priority था, but suddenly CEO comes and says कि यार ये product नहीं बनाना.
Okay.
And you are told कि now you have to speak to developers. So this is yeah. Yeah, tell me.
Please continue.
Yeah, you can speak.
So just 3 weeks of time, it's not more than 1 month, right? So we can start from the scratch, not like if we spent almost 6 months, means that will be very huge amount of time. But we just recently started so that we can make changes from the scratch.
Okay. So see, what interviewer is actually expecting from you is giving a bit more polished response here, right? So here, right, you need to again ask the clarifying questions, right? So once you are clear with those questions, right, you have to kind of uh, dramatize the entire situation, right? And then explain the conflict, and then you explain your approach and summarize. So for example, your developer has been working for 3 weeks on a piece of code, but your CEO has now scrapped the product. How will you handle the situation? So first you will explain the situation. See, like for example, Bimla, right? It happened with you once, right? How did you handle it?
I was just told directly that the the project that I was working on, it got cancelled because like the main product was not advanced enough to use that basically. So they just told me directly and asked me to move on to the next.
Okay. And how did you explain it to developers and everything? Okay, it happened with you.
Yeah,
So you
I
were
was
the developer. Okay. And what do you think you would have expected to be told?
I expected them to be a little nice about it, and I mean be considerate because I was working on it for 4 weeks now. But the thing is, the way they told me, it was pretty rude. I mean, it was not my fault. I mean, there was no fault in what I had made. It was just that they on implementation of that particular feature, it was slowing down the entire product because like right now the product is in vanilla JS and it does not really support that very well. That was the reason.
Okay.
But so they should have assessed it before commencing on that. But they were
Okay.
just like, yeah, just move on to the next product because anyways you have wasted so much time on this. And I was very dumbstruck, like, you asked me to do this, right?
Yeah. So I mean,
Oh.
see, this happens a lot, right? Uh, and Preetham, right, has answered, right, that first is, I mean, asking the reason, right? You would ask your CEO or the person who is heading, right, that why this product was scrapped off, because I need to explain it to my team, right? They have been working for 3 weeks, and I would need to explain it to them. So suppose the other person tells you that, okay, this is not a client priority anymore, right? They are not looking into this particular feature, right, anymore. The priorities have shifted. Then the next step that you would do is you would uh, essentially try to explain to your developer that okay, this was prioritized by us, right, and we collectively put in 3 weeks of effort, but this was something that is not a client priority right now, right? And this is something that we can later on prioritize, maybe in I mean maybe we can use some of the components of the code elsewhere, right? So you essentially downplay the situation for them, which is what you also wanted, right, Bimla? Right?
Right, right.
Yeah. So you wouldn't want somebody to kind of jump into that, right? Jump onto you, right? Instead, right, you would want somebody to kind of have an appreciation for it, right?
Right.
So those are the things, right, you would kind of uh, try to explain in your answer as well. So Preetham, right, how would you go about it, right? I mean, because you have answered it very beautifully, right? So can you tell me, right, this has happened with you, how would you tell, suppose I am the developer, how would you tell Nevedya?
I would tell that this was not from our side, and it's above the like pay grade. It was from CEO or stakeholders, and they think that currently it doesn't meet client requirements, or the actual roadmap doesn't allow it to be on the top priority right now, and we need to keep that in the back burner for now, and go on with alternative features which the stakeholders or CEO have planned.
Yep.
It
See,
wasn't that good reply,
And
but
I think over here we need to motivate the team as well, because that is the most important
yeah,
part when you talk to the team, because they will be demotivated actually. Uh,
yeah,
because it happens for me a couple of times. Okay. So first of all, we need to tell them what is the roadmap which by CEO is mentioned, right? So we need to explain what is the priority and what are we have already 3 weeks, what we have done, we can put that in the backlog, and from next sprint or something, we can take it.
yep,
And explain them in a such a way so that it will be a very useful. And we need to motivate, okay, whatever we have done, it is a very good job and it is appreciated by the CEO. Okay. And next step, take what are the priority as of now. So we will take what is the priority which was assigned to the CEO as per the stakeholders and everything. So
yep.
understand the situation and tell the situation to them, as well as explain in a such a way and motivate them. Those are
Yep.
the things actually we have to do.
Exactly, right. So so Preetham's answer, right, only missed one element, right, the motivation piece,
Motivation. Yeah.
right? What you said was absolutely true, Preetham, right? This was something above pay grade, right? People will remember this one thing, right, that vulnerability is the best way to kind of gather kind of respect from others, right? So you are exposing your vulnerability, nothing wrong in it, right? I mean, it's above my pay grade, I'm telling that, right?
One more thing, if I suggest, but I don't know if, how many of, always motivate the team, whether they are doing wrong. Also, you need to tell in a such a way that what they are doing. Okay,
Yeah,
that it will very easy for them.
Also,
Can
maybe a
I?
statement like your rewards would not go wasted. Your sorry, your hard work would not go wasted. It would be rewarded.
Yes.
yeah,
It rewarded, and we can say that it is kept in the backlog items as of now.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
can I tell
All
you
I
my
have to
experience?
say is like I may have a counterpoint here, and I have not never worked with startups. So like being a developer, and I think such kind of instances happen a lot, and even a developer understands that it's not coming from the product manager or something, or it's not your mistake. Like we will obviously mention that it's not a priority as of now. That's why we are keeping it as a backlog. So like why so they must be that much understanding, right? And like okay, we need to motivate the team, but like aren't we giving them like wrong things like okay, we'll be keeping it in backlog and your hard work will be paid off? So aren't these all lies? Like obviously we will be considering it in case we are really considering it, but just for the console thing, if we are saying that like should we do that?
See, Sakshi, right? See, always remember that product manager should always keep a balance between how emotions are kind of being played, right? I mean, the way you or for example, Preetham also told the same point, right? That why we are sugarcoating it. See, we are actually not sugarcoating it. We are actually empathizing more, right? See,
But Navidya, one more thing I want to add over here. See,
Hmm.
it might be a product manager and anything, but it is considered as a manager. So manager case is that you need to manage the team. Here is also same thing. You
Yeah,
have to manage
yeah, you have to manage the situation, right? And what
situations.
you are telling is not complete lie, right?
Yeah.
For example, your code will for sure be reused, right? I mean, based on the experiences that I have had in my product management career, I have seen that scrapped code is reused later on, right? I mean, कितनी बार होता है, right? ये हमने वहां बनाया था, right? पर वो बाद में यूज नहीं हुआ था, उसको यहाँ यूज कर ले, right? Those are the things, right? A lot of time is reused, right? So I mean, keeping it, saying it bluntly, right, that okay, I mean, your efforts are wasted, guys, I mean, what good will it do? Nothing, right? In fact, somebody would be demotivated and would leave the organization next day. So I mean, I'll tell you an example. In my case, right, this happened. So I was firefighting an issue even today, right? So what happened was last month. So I manage a product named Natch, right? I told you guys, right, which is for automatic EMI deductions, right? So what happened was for 1,300 odd people, EMI got deducted twice, right, instead of once, and there was a lot of chaos and a lot of money was lost in everything, right? And everybody was blaming everyone, right? So my manager essentially called me up and he told me, right, see, I mean, at the end of the day, right, you are the product manager, but still all things are not in your control, right? There were things that were beyond your control, right? And you shouldn't worry about it, right? There might be situations and instances where you might have to deal with. Now what it immediately did was, for immediately, it kind of gave me a sense of comfort, and I was again back to my job, right? Instead of me wasting time, right, and worrying about things, I started to look back into the thing that was important, right? So I mean, was it sugar coated a bit? Yes, but did it work? It worked well, right? I mean, I mean, uh, telling bluntly, right? I mean, I don't know how people will perceive it, right? Satish, just, I mean, I would want your opinion, or maybe Preetham's, or
Yeah. So I always prefer, like, see, maybe whatever things comes, right, all of a sudden, as you mentioned, right, you have taken firefighting things, it comes up once in a while, I would say, a development specific, right? So every time it will be coming up, so we need to handle the situation, especially if you're talking as a product manager thing, you have to handle the things. It's not like you're building a product, right, but you are managing a team as well. If someone comes up, right, something will happen in such a way that uh, some code might be developed by you, but it's not, some people might not taking that code, okay, you have built something might went wrong, but we'll keep a backlog, or uh, it's not a correct, we can say that it's not correct way to develop or something, but you have to acknowledge them and you need to tell them such a way they can understand the things. It is
yeah,
not like every time, okay, what you have done is right or wrong. You need to tell them such a way they can understand.
yeah,
That is
and
the only
and most importantly, right?
motivate.
Uh, Most important, just to add to it, right? Most importantly, right? It was never developer's fault that he worked for 3 weeks and that was scrapped off. It was his job, right, to do. Right? He didn't say that I want to work on this, right? Somebody else came and then enforced it, right? That you
I
have to do this.
think yes, like
Hmm.
when we have to deliver a bad news like this. So
Hmm.
is it always best to like put it on the situation like, hey, it wasn't in our control, it was all timing. What can I say? It was just a bad situation that happened, and I'm sure we can move on from it. I mean, can we say something like this?
Yeah, see, absolutely right, Bimla, right? I mean, being showing vulnerability is actually quickest way to gain trust,
Mhm.
right? If you are showing vulnerability, right, there's nothing wrong to it, right? Like for example, Preetham said, right, it's above our pay grade, guys, right?
Can I share something?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we were working like for my experience, we were working on a new customer for like 2 to 3 months. So it was supposed to go out of UAT to production for like in May, but it got delayed till August. So it was not our fault, and we were supposed to work for next 3 months for that customer only to provide them proper support. So as it got scrapped, we my team, we had 2 to 3 people at that time, so we were asked to move on to some other things that we were not familiar with. So my manager got into a meeting with us, and he explained very nicely, like you guys have worked so nicely, UAT so smooth and all those things. First he appreciated all of us for our efforts and everything. Then like he broke the news, like due to some payment issues this has happened, and like we need to start working on some other things and all. He explained us the priority and all the situation that he faced. After that, he assigned us some familiar task which we had already done for the previous customer, so we could like reuse that experience and build like use it in some other place.
Yeah. See, I mean, Preetham has just shared, right? I mean, so he is saying that we could bitch about the CEO with the developer that he is out of balance, right?
Yeah, they always do, like they blame it on the like topmost person.
See, they would see, but ideally, right? I mean, you have to handle it very diplomatically, right? I mean, especially when you are dealing with these, because what happens is if you are bitching for someone, right, somebody will be bitching for you, right? So it's better to avoid that thing always, right? So the best way to do that, I mean, in my experience, what I have learned is, I mean, just explain your particular vulnerability. That's it. See, it's not in my control. That's it. I don't know. I mean, don't ever put a blame on someone else, but you can at least tell na, ki this was not in my control. Now, whose control it was, right? I mean, you don't know, right? I mean, you just answer diplomatically, right? Or I don't know, but I am not responsible for it.
But
Right?
one more thing, Navidya, here I think the questions can be happen like if someone is going as a fresher, I don't think so much questions which will be coming up, because
Yeah,
only if you're going as a experienced people only. I think here, I think most of them are freshers.
yeah. See, for fresh grads as well, right? A question like this will be there, right? Have you ever faced a failure in life, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, that questions will become.
Yeah, and these questions, right, are very hello.
Yes, Nivedha, you are audible.
Okay, so no, I thought Sharon was saying something. So, uh, so I mean, these kind of questions, right, which you need to kind of prepare beforehand, right? You need to kind of keep in mind that you need to tell some kind of a twist in there, right? That okay, there was a failure that happened. Don't be afraid of telling that what all you think that you genuinely did wrong, because I mean, everybody does wrong, then it later course corrects, right? So I mean, the key to it is staying as true as possible here, right? And essentially applying a framework, right? So for example, if you would ask me, hey, have you ever faced a failure in life, did you overcame it? So I would always start by answering, right? uh, so I would always start by answering this in a manner that, hey, uh, 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 So I will explain this. There's one scenario which I would like to talk about where we failed very miserably, and there were some lessons learned from it. And this was the failure. This happened, right? This was the thinking at that point of time I was having, and this is how I this was how I course corrected it. So essentially, you tell the structure beforehand, and then you kind of start telling your answer, right? That okay, I'll be answering it in 3 steps. First, I will explain what the situation was. Second, I will explain that what were the alternatives that I could have opted for, and third will be lessons learned from the thing that happened. So before that, it gives a sense of comfort to the interviewer that what is coming, right? So again, following a structure here is important. And Decode and Conquer talks about something called Diggs method, right? Which you can look at, right? Which is essentially dramatizing the situation, right? And then telling that what are the alternatives that are there, and essentially then summarizing that what could have been done. Uh, any questions we have here, right? I mean, I'm sure there will be a lot of questions here, right? I want you guys to ask any questions if you have here, right? Like, for example, how do you answer these kind of questions? Or what are more of these kind of questions, right? If you want to know more about it, right?
How to answer why do you want to switch to product management? Why are you why don't you like your previous
Why are you living?
no, like why don't you want to continue as a developer and be a product manager?
See, the answer to these kind of questions is very simple, right? See, what I so I have been in my previous role, I have been working with a lot of product managers, and I have been recommending a lot of things, right? But what I realized, right, that unless and until you don't become a product manager, you don't own certain aspects of the product, right? And I think that I am prepared to take that leadership charge, right, where I can take in these responsibilities, and that's how you would essentially answer. So there is no playbook by which you would go about it. What essentially one does is essentially what I would do is essentially I would essentially go through different uh, uh, chat portals and essentially uh, look at these kind of answers that are there, right? Why do I want to be a product manager? There's actually one book, right, which I would recommend, which will answer exactly this question for you. It's called Inspired. You can give a reference of a book as well.
I had another question actually.
Mhm.
So since I have very less experience in this field itself, like only 1 year, 6 months of total experience, will it be a hindrance for me? Like, will they tell me that you do not have enough experience to be a APM or be in this management field, or
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I mean, I'm basically a fresher only. I only have 1 year of experience.
Mhm.
So, would be an hindrance?
I mean, see, I mean, uh, if you would talk about me, is that a hindrance, right? I mean, so, uh, I mean, having for APM role, I don't think that's gonna be a hindrance, right? It depends on company to company, but really, right, the experience that is there uh, doesn't. Uh, I mean, an experienced candidate doesn't always correspond to a better candidate, right? What you should be able to tell is what all product management things. What you should be able to tell what all things that are there which kind of inspired to be product manager, and what are things of PM you have already done. So for example, you took up a course with Bright Ego, right? I mean, you can highlight this. This will tell a bit of seriousness. You can tell about your product portfolio, right? This will tell a bit of seriousness, right? So what interviewer is actually gauging is the kind of interest that you are having in the field rather than anything else.
Okay.
So, I mean, if at some companies there might be a hindrance for you, but not at every company, right? I mean, and essentially cracking the first role means that you would be interviewing with at least 20-30 companies, right? Before you crack your first one.
Right, right.
I think there was something very interesting that was posted by Anvesha, right? So Anvesha is telling the crucial part of being product manager is understanding the need of a customer. Somehow directly or indirectly, the PM is dealing with the psychological aspect. I think it would come to him or her naturally when dealing with such situations. Things might become become chaotic more than often. It is not about feeding false information, but presenting it in such a way that people don't feel unproductive, rather move on to the new priority with the same enthusiasm. I mean, I think this is, I'll copy paste this answer. I mean, Anvesha, this is actually very good. Yeah, no worries, right? I mean, but guys, I mean, you can actually keep this as a standard answer, right? Guys, what do you think about the answer?
It's framed like very nicely.
Yeah. So, I mean, see, this is a polished response, right? I mean, and essentially, I am also saving it, right? यार देखो ये सब चीजें है ना जब आपको मिलती हैं तो प्लीज डू मेक अ नोट दैट यू सेव ऑल दीज थिंग्स. Yeah, Preetham, it is diplomatic, right? Who told you that product management is not a diplomatic role? See, we are dealing with people's emotions as well, right? If we don't follow the diplomatic approach, right? I mean, it might see being blunt is good, but being blunt when you are being customer obsessive, it's good only then, but not at the cost of your team, right? So, I mean, imagine, right, your CEO telling in front at your face something, right? I mean, being uh, 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 being extremely blunt to you always, right? I mean, it might not work that well. So, typically, the people who are leaders, right? I mean, follow a diplomatic approach, right? So, I mean, sometimes you have to be
I would
extremely.
suggest for all the manager positions, you have to be a little bit diplomatic now, as it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, see, at the end of the day, right? See, at the end of the day, one has to empathize, right? Now,
Yes.
empathy always comes with a bit of diplomacy in it as well, right? And you are not doing it in a wrong diplomatic manner, right? You are doing it for the good of the individual only. Abhinav, so what will be your approach to get an interview at your dream company? So I am not the best person to answer this because I am not working anywhere close to my dream company, right? So, but the way I mean, it always evolves, right? Whatever my dream company is, right? I mean, it always evolves over a period of time. What I generally do is, I mean, I look out for the role rather than a company. So, so hypothetically, right? So one of the things that I have done over the years is I have always bypassed the route of writing it to HR and then getting a job. So whenever I find a company interesting, I'll directly write to CEOs. So this was the CEO of the first company I wrote, and he was amazing, right? He helped me out to get my first role. Hello?
Yeah, Navedya.
Yes, Navidya, you are audible.
Right.
Yeah.
Navidya, I have a question on what Pooja asked. So she said she has mentioned that she doesn't have enough experience and that can be a hindrance. So in that terms, I feel Pooja that the number doesn't matter really, because in my case, I feel even though I have got a decent number of work X, it still is a problem at times. Because my question to you, Navidya, is I was asked that uh, for there was like a hypothetical situation, or you say, how do you manage team? So my experience up until now has never been a kind of like, I'm not into a role or a position where I would, be managing conflict between team members or have managed any team as such. So, how should we go about such questions if we don't have experience? Do you think that, like in that particular situation, I had informed the interviewee that I have never, managed anybody, and but I am good at what do you say, connection with people within my team. So I try to be, keep balancing out all the team members evenly within my team. But I have never been in that position, where I have to uh, be as a manager and handle any conflicting situation. So how should we answer this if we don't have really any experience,
So
but we know the things?
yeah, so the way I would if I would have been in your shoes, right, the way I would have answered it is, although I just want to tell you, right, I have never professionally been into that role, right, but I can take analogies from the experiences I have in my previous role and also in my personal life, right? So if I just give you an example, right? So I am really good at. So there were instances in my college life, right, where essentially there were a lot of conflicts due to a fest that was happening, right? And what I realized was being a junior, right? What it was not that seniors were not willing to listen, right? In organization also there are sometimes people more experienced than us, older than it's not that they are not willing to listen, it's only the way of our approach that matters, right? So that is something that I learned there, right, that if we give the due respect to the people, right, and then we kind of approach them and then we kind of understand their viewpoint and then ask clarifying questions at that point of time, people essentially uh, uh, shell out what is there, right? So I mean that kind of balancing act I am able to play, right? So what you are able, what you are trying to do is you are giving relating the previous examples that were there in your life, right? Like college fest में लड़ाई होती थी तो मैं खड़े हो जाता था, right? I would give the respect to seniors, right? I would
Okay,
do
okay.
all those things, right? So
Yeah.
this is one of the analogies. So whenever you are not able, you were not in that situation, just place yourself in those shoes.
Okay, got it.
So, uh, uh, yeah, any other question that you guys have? Preetham has asked best job boards to apply for APM product analyst entry level roles. Angellist.co. Angel.co. Single best. Producthunt.com. Second best.
Single best site or Are you referring to Angel?
Angel.co.
My application somehow like keeps expiring there.
No. What you should do is you should look at the company at angel.co and then reach out to the CEO on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And you should write a very polished cover letter to them, right? So see, I wrote him something and then he responded back to me and then I wrote like this, right? This was way back in 2014. So if you could read it, right? So I'll just read out for you guys, right? So, hey Gurvinder, delighted to see your response. As for the profile, I attribute more to sheer luck on my part to get good mentorship at the right time. I do dream that at some time in the future, our country will have a firm like Blackstone or BlackRock, which is going to be truly global in financial space. And if such an opportunity arises, I would certainly like to play a role in it. My education, that is BS plus MBA from Triple IT and Progressive CFA, prepares me well for a fintech role and aligns my interest. It will be a sheer privilege to talk to you. Thank you very much again for responding back to Ruki's query. Have a splendid evening. Right. And he kind of, really liked the comment there, right? But this is how you should kind of start your conversation, right? You should show a genuine interest in things that you want to kind of work on. So look at angel.co openings, research a bit about company. If you really find it interesting, reach out to the CEO on LinkedIn and write something good there. That's the standard and the only way to kind of get
Thanks for the tip.
Yes, cold messaging on LinkedIn doesn't require a LinkedIn premium every time. You could send in as many connect requests as you can, right? See, एक बार में 10 companies को research करो. Charles, we'll probably need another session on about CV formation, right? Where we can discuss that. I'll discuss it with Ritik and let you guys know about. We'll need a separate session on where we could create resumes.
Nivedya, I have one question regarding estimates. So, like in one of the interviews, it's for not for product management, but sometimes they give you a sheet or it's like in a written format. It's not face to face that you have to answer such questions. So, like, what I start with is like I just give assumptions. Like, the question was, you just asked like how many golf balls are there in the air at this moment. So we just start with assumptions. Like, okay, I'm assume okay, like I just give my approach. Like, okay, I'll start with like how many people are playing golf right now and how many golf grounds are there, and just give a random value to them and then structure a formula. So I used to leave it there. Like I was shortlisted for that. It's the correct approach, right? And yeah, and even in face-to-face interviews, like you like pressed on the point, like we should be asking questions, right? But they do see your approach, like how you're approaching this question and like how you're thinking, like how you're narrowing down. So we can just start by saying, right, like, okay, I'm assuming like these many golf grounds are there at this time.
Yeah, that's actually a valid approach, right? So whenever you are, so you can take your assumptions, right, and you can just what is needed is you clearly state them, right?
Yeah.
And there's one series, right, which I would recommend you guys to look at is this Go Figure. Go Figure by Nadeem Makani.
I think it.
So this is one of the very good series, right?
Welcome to Go Figure. My name is Nadeem Makaran, CEO and founder of Gojek, Southeast Asia's first super app. Gojek does ride hailing, food delivery, payments, even on-demand massages. You name it, we do it. Go Figure is a podcast dedicated to expose the inner workings of ambitious tech companies in the emerging world. We like to talk about things we like and talk about things we don't like. There are a lot of myths out there that we want to dispel, so keeping it real is kind of our mantra.
Okay. So this video, right, you guys should watch. Guys, by the way, you are downloading everything, na, which I am sending.
Yes.
Yes, Navitya.
So this is a very great video, right? So there are 2-3 videos of Go Figure which I really like. So one is a talk with Kunal Shah. I think you guys should start looking at those, right? That will build a lot of perspective in you. And this particular video, right? Fantastic product managers and where to find them, right? Here it will give you an idea about what product management is, right? In a much more articulated manner. And the best part about these podcasts is these are unfiltered ones. So this will kind of build a very strong perspective for you guys. Preetham, I think I told right that for resumes, right, we need to have a separate session, right, where we specifically talk about resumes, right. I'll speak to Ritik about that, right, and creating resumes is would require much time, right? So it's kind of very difficult for me to tell in 20-30 seconds how to kind of create the entire resume. Yeah, Preetham, you can send the resume on the chat, right, and I'll review it.
Also, Naivedya, Satish in the chat has mentioned the difference between PM roles and B2C and B2B. So I also have this question, if you could answer.
See, so I'll share one of the PPTs which I made, right, for B2C versus B2B, right. So essentially, B2C product roles are essentially more data driven in nature, right, and essentially they are more difficult to crack into as well, because the ambiguity that is there is a lot, because a lot of thing is learned by experimentation. Whereas in B2B role, right, a lot is related to workflows, and uh, uh, there a lot of shepherding skill is required. I think I have B2C versus B2B I created at some point of time. Let me see if I can find it. I documented it well. Just a second. See, after every interview, you are looking right. I mean, I made notes and everything.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah, you can share it later.
yeah, I'll share it with you, right? So I did an excellent comparison there, B2B versus B2C at some point of time. Yeah, this one. Yeah. Satish, this will essentially give you the answer, right? B2C versus B2B role. So I also moved from a service-based organization to a product-based entity, right? And essentially, right? See, a lot of questions, right, would require a one-on-one. So, I mean, you can let me know, right? And we can speak sometime for 10-15 minutes.
Sure. Whenever you're free tomorrow, you can. Yeah, let me know. Yeah.
Sure. So I've also shared a screenshot, guys, for B2B versus B2C. Yeah. Okay, guys.
Yes, thank you, Nivedita.